Before I start this episode, I just want to quickly lay this out. So, when it comes to the FI races, I tend to stay away from them as usually they're kind of just not really my thing, except for lately because I've been wanting to try out the new longer format and see how they are. It's a lot of fun, but for some reason it just doesn't really stick with me. But when I saw that the third round of the Nations Cup was with N300s, I knew I was going to end up taking out the Supra and enter this race. For those of you who don't know, I competed in the GR Supra GT Cup and I just absolutely fell in love with that car. It's, I mean, it's kind of weird to talk about it since, it's a car, it's not a person or anything like that. But I just love driving that car. I feel like I'm really good at driving with it. So I just wanted to take it out one more time, especially in a competitive setting like this. And yeah, let's go ahead and enter the race and see how we do. Alright, it's race day, round 3 of Nations Cup. And it's good to see some people here like DNA Spec Miata, DNA Jodica, and Turismo Groove, and Cards Fan as well. It's good to see them all again. I haven't seen them in a while. And we ended up qualifying third place. I was about a tenth of a second off from pole position, and it was a bit of a shame because in the last lap of qualifying, I almost had it. I could have qualified pole position, but I ended up messing up at the last hairpin. Anyways, here we are. We're getting ready to start the race. Fuel burn just a little bit before we start because we don't need to refuel at all. We don't even need to enter the pit stop for this race. And yeah, let's go ahead and roll on over to the start line. 2, 1, and here we go. And I think this is a little bit interesting, at least for me, because I had very different expectations for this race. I mostly just came here just to have some fun. I wanted to drive this car one last time before I have to put it away for a while. And I also just wanted to see what the Nations Cup feels like. I know I competed in the Manufacturer Cup or Manufacturer Series in 2018, and then after that I kind of just dropped it. I've never competed in the Nations Cup, so this is my first race in the Nations Cup. And I mean, we're doing pretty good. And all I have to do is know my brake points, keep an eye on the tires, and see if I can keep up with first and second place. I know Cards Fan is actually a really good player. He's usually the one that's ahead of me in the GR Supra GT Cup, and he's in the M4. And I think what's interesting was that after the first 2 races, since this is the third slot, people started to pick up that the M4 is a pretty fast car, which explains why it's doing a really good job keeping up with the SFR, which is, I think, the safest car to be with for this race. And at the same time, we have the GR Supra RZ, which is also another great choice. Has a speed, has a bit of that turning ability to keep up with the other 2 cars. And I know another good car was the Crossbow, but I never tried it out. I just wanted to be on the Supra, and yeah, that's how stubborn I am. So first and second place, they're just really battling it out, and I'm over here just going what? I mean, I'm just trying to keep up with them, and I'm kind of just hoping that they kill each other or that they make some massive mistakes so I can easily take home the win. But I mean, I wouldn't mind taking second or third as long as I finish where I started at the very least. Then I'll be more than happy with that. And you're going to notice that there are some parts where I'm kind of just falling behind, but then I start to pull in at other parts. And you'll see when I start to pull in. And I think what's really interesting about these 3 cars that we see here is that they all do really great in different areas. For example, with this car, the GR Supra RZ, it does really well in exiting out of turns, just the acceleration. It can kick some serious butt. With the M4, it will just fly away with its top speed. And with the SFR, it'll do really great in areas where you need that downforce. So in the S's, that car will dominate. And yeah, so look here, I've already caught up to these two, and I'm just gonna hang out right behind them because I don't want to join the battle. I mean, I am in the battle, but I kind of just want to sit back and kind of just wait for something to happen, because these two, they're really duking it out. Because look at them, going from first to second, second to first, and they just keep on switching positions. So I'm kind of just gonna hang out in the back. I want them to take each other out, and well, I mean, these guys are really good, so I kind of doubt that's going to happen, but you never know. It could happen by a complete accident. You know, huge mistake happens, takes the other one with them. Yeah, so here the SFR will do awesome, but it's getting held back by the M4, and the other SFR behind me is getting held back by me, so they don't really have anywhere to go but just to stay behind us. So here I'm going to think that they're going to break behind each other, so I'm going to go a bit on the inside, but the SFR over here, he goes on the inside a little bit as well, so I have to go on an evasive maneuver, just trying not to take out the other guy. And we end up getting a bit of contact, so I flashed my emergency lights, just kind of just trying to say sorry, because I didn't intend to dive bomb him. I was just trying to get out of harm's way, just trying to avoid contact. But at least we got the job done, I guess. So now I'm hanging out behind first place, and I'm not going to focus too much on whoever is behind me, which is going to be the SFR that I dive bombed by accident. But the thing is that he's going to catch up in different spots, and I'll be able to pull away in different spots. But once again, my main focus is try to catch up to first place, because that little battle that we had ended up getting first place to create a bit of a gap between him and I. And once again, I'm just going to be doing my own thing, just trying to maintain a very good pace, and hopefully that's going to be more than enough to catch up to first place. Alright, so I'm going to speed up the clip, and just notice how Kart's fan is getting away from me, especially in this section. But once we approach the hairpin, I'm going to start closing the gap on him, and we have a couple more sharp turns over here, and it's going to do nothing but help me close in the gap more and more. So here on this turn, I end up getting a bit better of a turn than he does, and now I'm hanging out right behind him. And once again, I mean, we're only lap 5 on the race, so I don't want to start this crazy battle. I just want to stick right behind him and kind of just try to work together to see if we can separate ourselves from third place and from the rest of the pack. That way we can just have our own little private battle and see who comes out on top. But unfortunately, that's not really going to be the case. Once again, we have the S's, so the SFRs are going to have a huge advantage over here, and they're kind of going to use that to their advantage to keep up with us, or even close in the gap on us, while we kind of have an advantage on different parts. But the thing we also have to consider is the tire wear, and as we go through the race, the tire wear on the Supra is going to make this car a little bit feisty, and I'm going to have to try to be a bit more careful with it. And I think when it comes to the SFR, the tire wear on it is really good, which will give it an upper hand in the later half of the race. And I think the same goes for the crossbow. I'm not sure, but that's what I've heard. Alright, so I went ahead and skipped on over to lap 9, because this is where it gets interesting. The SFR managed to catch up to both of us, and he's just really going to be hounding on us with the S's over here. We go a little bit wide, and all this is going to bring an advantage over to the SFR behind us, and we're battling it out at this point. We're going to see if we can try to get the overtake done, and the SFR just kind of just ends up bumping me. He just came in with a lot of speed, but nothing really happens. Luckily, none of us got taken out, but through this part, yeah, the M4 is just going to have a bit more speed, so I'm not going to be able to get overtake done. And I don't want to go for a dive bomb over here, because trying to go for overtake over here is, well, it's a little bit risky, dumb, more risky than dumb, but yeah. So that was a little bit of an interesting battle, and we're just trying to see if we can keep up with them. But here I end up braking just a tad bit too late. We're entering lap 11, and this is where the tire wear is going to start getting to us. The SFR on the left, he's trying to go for overtake on the outside, but it's not going to work. So luckily I was able to keep my position even though I made a massive mistake. And with the tire wear, it's going to start to haunt me, because I've been pushing the car, and because of that I've been stressing at the tires. So I'm going to have a bit of tire wear, and that's going to be enough for it to cause problems to me. I'm going to have to brake earlier. I'm going to have to accelerate a bit more carefully, steer a bit more carefully, especially in this car, because it just gets really feisty. And here on the S's, this is where I start to get worried, because once again, there's an SFR right behind me. This is the part where it performs the best, so it's going to be hounding on me. Like right now, he's just hanging out right behind me, and it's getting me worried, because I'm like, oh shoot, he might end up overtaking me. But I'm able to defend the position for now. But I don't know if he's going to go for the overtake at the hairpin, and it looks like he was, but I was able to close the door on him. And over here I can breathe a little bit, because I have better acceleration than he does, so I can breathe a bit for now and worry about first place, who is still just slowly pulling away from me. Here I'm going to try to see if I can catch up a little bit, and it seems like I am, and I'm just trying to be a bit more careful. At this point, you kind of just have to be a bit more wary about what you're doing, especially in the Supra, as once again, it's not going to have all the grip to do what you want it to do, so it's going to have a higher chance of it just stepping out on you, and you have to really control the heck out of this car to make it work. Fast forward through this part over here, and we're going to be entering into the S's, and I am really worried at this point, because I know the SFR is likely going to try to pull something on me. So I'm just going to try to see if I can keep my line. But here he comes. He just comes in on the inside, just sneaks on over, barely within the track limits. And we're just really battling it out. And I'm trying to give him just a little bit of space. And I almost got a penalty for cutting the track, but he gets the job done. And it was a really risky move, as one of us could have gotten a penalty, but luckily none of us did. He got the job done. And yeah, so at this point I'm like, okay, well, I mean, he managed to do that, so let's see if I can get an overtake on him. And very important, maintenance will begin in 2 hours. Please be sure to save your game for the top screen before maintenance begins. Very important notice, especially in the middle of the race. So yeah, so thank you Gran Turismo Sport for giving us that message. So I'm going to see if I can try to keep up behind second place, and see if we can actually work together to capture the first place, because he is kind of in his own world. I mean, he still has to worry about us because we're not too far from him, but we're behind just enough to where he can breathe just a little bit more and kind of just go at his own pace, depending on how much his car lets him go at his own pace. And right away, the SFR, he's pulling away. He's starting to get a little bit closer, reeling him in. And oof, over here, this is where, yeah, the cars are struggling a lot. I'm getting quite a bit of understeer, and I just have to really adjust the car to make sure I don't go off track. And this is kind of the part where I'm like, okay, I think this is where my race is slowly going to start to end. And I just have to do a lot better in the other sections before and after the S's, so I can try to at least get that part made up for. Alright, skipped on over to lap 16, and between the last clip and now, they managed to pull away from me. The SFR caught up to the M4, obviously, as you see here, But at the same time, I'm just slowly reeling them in back to me because they're fighting so much. And at the same time, I was able to understand the car and adapt to what it needs to perform as well as it did in, say, the start of the race. And because of that, I'm able to kind of keep up with the pace of the front two cars. But once again, they're going to be fighting a lot, so they're going to be going a bit slower, which will help me catch up. I just have to make sure that the car doesn't do something stupid, and especially through here, I just have to be a lot more careful, because if I mess up here, then I'm definitely not going to catch up to them by the end of the race. We're down to less than 1.5 laps left, so I'll have to see if I can somehow catch up to them, because they're 1 second ahead. Somehow catch up to them and see if I can overtake at least one of them. Here they go side to side at the hairpin. They are determined to get first place, especially as we approach the start of the final lap, and I am determined to try to catch up to them, and let's see if that's going to happen. So starting lap 17 right here, or first, second, and third place. Fourth place, we don't have to worry about them. Break under the 100. Try to keep an eye on the tire wear and just make sure that I don't overshoot it with this car. They're really battling out still. I'm just slowly catching up to them, and that's going to help me out. And once again, I have to be very careful. Just be very gentle with the car, because that's what it needs to make sure that it doesn't oversteer for me. And here they're going to pull away just a little bit as they're going a lot faster. The SFR has that slipstream advantage. And over here, I'm going to get a bit more of an advantage. I can handle this turn a little better than both of the cars just up ahead. And the SFR needs to get ahead of the M4 to navigate through the S's and definitely secure the win. And let's see what happens. They go side to side, and it's getting really close. They're just trying to make room for each other and try not to take each other out. And the SFR does get in front, taking advantage. And he's going to start pulling away a little bit over here, because this is where it has the upper hand. And now it's going to be the turn of the M4, really trying to get advantage of that speed, getting right behind each other, and they're going to go side to side once again. We're going to see what happens, and I get right behind them and see if I can try to get a desperate overtake at the very end. But the SFR is still standing right behind, but they're going to side, and the M4 with its speed and power overtakes it one last time for the win. That was just really crazy to see all that happen. I actually thought that they were going to kill each other, but they didn't. It was just some brilliant clean racing from both of them, and just me hanging in the back. But still, we had some really great battles throughout the entire race. Took home third place. Very happy with where I started and where I finished, taking home a delicious 2,035 points. But most of all, I'm just very happy that I was able to take the GR Supra RZ out one more time. And hopefully I can take it out again, because I just absolutely love that car. And yeah, that is all for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. This is Mr. CA, the world's most okay player, and I'll see you in the next video.